Hey everyone, Mr. Johnson here again. Welcome to week 14. I decided to switch things up a little bit. Usually I would have some sort of video with my face in it, but this week I just decided to combine them and kind of just show you things up front so you have less things to watch. Hopefully that makes most of you happy. If any of you want to see my face, I'll probably have another video at some point. This week is going to be, this week you're focusing on the persuasive speech. That's mostly what you're doing. I've given some brief instructions on the weekly checklist of the things you need to focus on. Basically, there's 5 things to work on this week. And but before I do that, don't get too ahead of myself. I just kind of want to show you where we've been so far. Remember at the beginning of the semester we had individual weeks. There was this time that we actually met together. Can you believe it? We all interacted all throughout weeks 1 through 10, and then the first group briefing was the last time we were all together in class. And then we switched to online teaching, which has been more or less successful with all of its hiccups along the way. So we're still managing. But week 11, we got through. Week 12, 13, you guys made it. Super proud of you all. We've just been very impressed by the ways that each of you have continued to go up and beyond in our work. I loved reading your discussion boards this week. Very engaging and thoughtful. Very good job, all of you. And we've gotten through the asynchronous presentation. We've gotten kind of ready for the persuasive speech, and then the last thing we focused on was the group briefing. And the only thing I wanted to mention before we talk about what's going on this week is so I think I'm missing 1 or 2 of the group briefings from maybe like each of our classes. So there's 1 or 2 groups that haven't submitted them. If you haven't, please make sure you do this. Some of you are interacting or having trouble interacting with each other virtually, which I get just because some of you are in different parts of the world or the country. So please make an effort to be intentional with communication with one another, whether it's email, whether you get a WhatsApp chat going, or chatting via Zoom, like whatever it is. Just be intentional about that, because I know that will help later on when you actually get to the group presentation, which is about 3 weeks away, including this week, so not too far away. So if you haven't turned it in, please make sure you do so. I'm still willing to consider. I understand these last few weeks have been crazy, but please turn this in, because I do need that. You're probably then wondering, well, what's this week going to be like? Well, as I said, it's the persuasive presentation. There's only a few things you're doing this week. You're watching this video, which is titled Getting Ready to Persuade. That's what you're doing now. And then I'm going to have you watch a video that Jen Hall recorded. Jen Hall, if you don't remember, is the coordinator for COM 114. And she actually did my work for me. It's kind of great when you're having to do a lot of things. She put together a really helpful, I think 7-minute video explaining how to record and upload your persuasive presentation. And the reason why I need you to watch this video, everyone is required to watch this. You need to watch this video. You are not going to be able to successfully upload your persuasive presentation unless you watch this video. The reason why is because we're trying to capture the essence of you being in the classroom, right, as if you were in front of your peers, but while also being, in your homes, right? It's not going to be like the asynchronous speech where you are kind of editing and cutting your video, right? It's going to be one take, and I'm going to say that again. You're not editing this video. It's one take. You pause, and then you end. That does mean that you can do this as many times as you want until you get the best version, right? But if you edit your video, I will deduct several letter grades from the presentation. You're probably asking, whoa, why? That's so harsh. The reason is because we're practicing as if you were giving this in front of a lot of people. You wouldn't have the option to cut or edit your video if you were giving it in class, right? So we're going to try to maintain that same idea. You'll still have a grace period on the video, but on the speech itself, right? I'll give you that 30-second buffer time, but you need to make sure that it's in one take. And yeah, please do that. So you're watching this video, you're watching Jen Hall's recording. If you were one of those students who needs to revise and upload your topic form, please do so. I've indicated in each of my comments for each of your speeches what I need from you. Some of you I just say approved, great job, right? Like some of you were just fine. Some of you still need to revise and upload that revised topic form. So if you haven't done so, please do so. I just recommend you all double check your topic forms to make sure if I've given you can't speak today to see if I've given you any comments for it. So make sure you do that. And then the only new thing you're doing, if you haven't done it, turn in your persuasive framework /outline by the end of this week, Saturday, by April 18th by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then you're recording and uploading your persuasive speech, doing the same thing, uploading it at the same time. That's what you're doing this week. I'll just very briefly, you can go back and watch the lecture video I gave you on the persuasive presentation. It was one of the first videos I gave you. You can look that up on the channel. I'm not going to bore you through this whole thing again. It is your biggest individual presentation, so please be aware of that. You'll need to spend some time on this, right? It's not something you can record yourself and upload the night before. You need to spend some time practicing on your own and then actually giving it and then uploading it, right? So don't do it last minute. It's 4 to 6 minutes, but that's accounting for the grace period, so 3 minutes and 30 seconds to 6 minutes and 30 seconds. I understand that because you're videoing it, you're recording it in one take. The only thing else that I will remind you of is you need 4 oral citations. Some of you ask me, does that mean it needs to be 4 different sources, or can it be 4 quotes from the same source, or 2 different sources? I'll just clarify. It needs to be 4 different sources. And the reason for that is because you're practicing the art of oral citation, which means that you will need 4 different sources to practice with. So you're just doing that. And remember, the things you need for an oral citation are the author's name, date, and source location. These are the things that you need to indicate in that citation. So if you haven't been doing so, make sure you do that. I won't bore you with this again because I've talked about this in the other video, but please, please, please read this before doing your presentation. You need to follow these steps for it because of the changes that are being made with persuasive speech. So if you don't apply these changes, it's going to hurt your grade. So make sure you go in and do that. Then the way that you can reinforce your understanding about these concepts is by watching Jen Hall's video, which I will give you the link here and in my announcement when I send this out later today. So make sure you do that. Other than that, the only last thing I just very briefly wanted to touch on with you for this is just the rubric for the persuasive speech. It's very, very similar to everything that we've done so far, and you're just adding the persuasive element. I just want to emphasize, if you have not been using an attention getter for your introduction, you need to do that at this point. And let me explain what an attention getter is not. It is not saying, hello, my name is so-and-so, and today I'm going to tell you about blank. That's not an attention getter. In fact, if you heard probably a TED Talk speaker give that, it works, right? It's not bad, but it's not something that grips the audience's attention. A good attention getter is a quote, it is a statistic, it is a short story, it's a startling fact, right? Startling, I can't spell. Something like this, something that's engaging, something that's thoughtful. And you need to use this. If I'm going to hunker down on this one probably for this speech because some of you have not been using this in your presentations. I will deduct more points for this presentation if you don't use an attention getter. I really want you to practice this. If you're not practicing this, please do it for your presentation because this is the way this is how effective speeches just work in general. You'll note that the best speakers have something like this. So I want you to practice that. Have your credibility statement right, something like today, I've been giving speeches for so many years, and I'm going to teach you how to give a persuasive speech. Something like that. I don't know. Let's use the example of COVID-19. Some of you are talking about persuading people to wear masks. So maybe you might say, I've been wearing a mask for the last 8 weeks, and I've learned that this is helpful. It wouldn't literally be 8 weeks. We haven't even been in quarantine that long, but it's forever as long as you've been, right? And then just say, right now COVID-19 is affecting everyone across the globe. You're probably feeling the effects of it, blah, 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 blah. Just make it relevant to them. And then make sure you give your thesis and main points. you're probably wondering, Mr. Johnson, you talked about this already. What does your thesis and main points look like? It looks something like this. Today I want to persuade you to wear a homemade mask, and I'm going to show you how to do this through 3 points, right? The thesis is saying, I want to persuade you to wear a homemade mask, and then your 3 main points, you would specifically state them. Some of you haven't been using this at the very beginning, and effective speaking involves giving a roadmap of what you're going to talk about before you do it, right? So make sure you're implementing this. Same applies when you come back to the conclusion. Some of you haven't been implementing the conclusion at all in your presentations, and I encourage you to make sure you just briefly summarize. This is what we said today, kind of give just a little bit of detail about what you did in each of your points, and then end with that call to action, that clincher saying, now go get your mask today at www.covid19 masks. I don't know, I'm making it up, right? But make sure you have something very engaging at the end. This is one of the most important things that will get your audience to do what you're persuading them to do. Finally, in the body, make sure you use those transitions, have good organization. This is probably the most important part that I'm going to be looking at for the body. How well do you develop your argument and support it with evidence, right? I'm going to be looking for those logical appeals, logos, ethos, pathos. I'm going to be looking to see if you commit any logical fallacies. You probably won't have that problem, but if you do, I will mention them and I'll give you instruction. I'll point them out. So practice what we've been doing in class. Practice what we've been doing on the discussion boards and with the worksheets. Whether your speech is fact, value, policy, right? Consider those and organize your speech in a way that's accordingly. Finally, your visual aids. You've been all doing fantastic on your visual aids. You're just kind of you're gonna do a similar method that you did with your explanation speech. And Jen's video kind of shows you how you're going to use your visual aids. I'm not going to talk about that here because she does a very nice job of explaining how to use them, and the worksheet obviously teaches you how to do that as well. So this will show you how to do it. But using visual aids, you've all been doing great. Make sure you're using the assertion evidence model if you're doing it. Enough said there. Finally, delivering. Keep up good delivery. I've been giving you all comments here, so at this point you're all pretty familiar with all these particular parts. That is it. That's everything that is due for week 14. So again, you finish this video, go watch Jen Hall's video. I recommend even right now so that it's all fresh in your mind. Then revise and re-upload your persuasive topic form if you are one of those people who needs to do so. Turn in your framework if you haven't done so already, and then record your persuasive speech. And I really look forward to watching those. All of you have great topics, and for those of you who are still revising them, I'm excited to see how you make those changes. Again, as I always like to say, let me know if you have any questions, but I'm still very proud of all of you. Keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you soon.